Shieldwall defensive ability is available to both civilized and barbarian armies, and it works the same way as the shield screen in that it will increase stats based on their starting values. So it increases bracing by a factor of 3, so less than the hoplite wall and the shield screens 4, but these are sword units, so they're going to be less effective against cavalry anyway. It increases the base defense by 1.15, it increases the armor by 1.2, and that is only the shield armor, and these are multipliers, so it's by times 1.2, and increases the shield melee defense by 1.25. So when I put these tribal warriors with their starting stats of 70 melee defense and 95 armor, when I put them in the shield wall, they are going to see increases to their stats when the formation is formed. So they're going to have 102 armor, which is massive, and then they're going to have 84 melee defense, which is also pretty good. So this makes these already tanky units even more tankier. The Gallo Thracians, they start out with a melee defense of 56 and an armor of 65. So this is going to increase their armor and their melee defense, so that their stats are now going to be 68 melee defense and 72 armor. If we do this on Oathsworn, that have a melee defense of 69 and armor of 80, it's going to increase their stats to 83 and 87 armor. So they are going to gain 7 armor, and they're going to gain not as much melee defense as these tribal warriors, because they start out with slightly more melee defense. If we put them out of formation, you can see that they start out with 70 melee defense, while the Oathsworn have 69 melee defense. So the shield wall is a very useful ability in making your units more survivable. And when we mouse over the tooltip, it says armor strength, bracing, melee defense, and shield strength. So the increase on the... that's quite interesting with the shield wall, is that the increase on armor... let's just remove them from the shield wall. The increase on armor is base value 30 and the shield value is 35, so that's going to get increased by 1.2 on the shield, and that's going to increase their armor by 7. And the same with these guys, is going to increase their armor by 7, because it isn't precise to say that it increases armor strength, because it actually increases the shield armor value. So that's how it works, and but it will not increase the the amount of missiles being blocked. It will, however, increase the amount of base damage that you can block with your shields, because the shields have increased armor. So let's have a look at my favorite unit for testing against missiles, the Noble Horse Archers. Let's put these Oathsworn up against the Noble Horse Archers. And we know that with the hoplite wall, the hoplites are more susceptible to missiles in hoplite wall, because the hoplite wall doesn't increase their armor, and it makes the formation more dense. But let's see if the same is the case with the Oathsworn here. And they are going to be in a 6-man deep formation. Now we know that spreading them out into thin lines 2 men deep is going to reduce the amount of casualties they take, and that is because more missiles will miss, and the missile units aim for the center of the unit. So if the center of the unit is smaller, fewer men are going to get hit. But with the defensive formation, there are going to be more men concentrated in the center, being pulled out from the sides, and the formation is contracted, so that's going to make it so that they take more damage from missiles. But the interesting thing to see is if the increase in armor is enough to offset the increase in amount of missiles that hit the Oathsworn. So the Oathsworn are getting hit here, starting to die a bit. We have the precision shot being used and heavy shot by the Noble Horse Archers, so they are doing a lot of missile damage. And the Oathsworn are dying not insanely fast, but they are dying to these missiles from the front. And you can see what I'm talking about with the missiles mainly hitting the center of the unit here. They're mainly hitting in this area, so if this formation was spread out here, we would have two wings of Oathsworn not taking any missile fire at all. So useful when you're up against skirmishers to spread your guys as thin as possible. But still, if there is cavalry around, then they're going to take a beating from the cavalry. So here we go, the 66 kills on the Oathsworn took the unit down to half strength, and we will test it with the Shieldwall. 66 casualties. Oathsworn do not like being fired upon with heavy shot. So we'll run them up and then we'll use the defensive ability. The shield wall can be used like the Hoplite wall and the shield screen, and the best way of using the shield screen is to charge in, get a massive charge bonus of 35, and then activate the shield wall to make the units more resilient in close combat. And it can be activated after something like 20 or 30 seconds. I prefer 30. Some people prefer less, some people just hit it at once, but it's more effective to keep them fighting for some time before you activate it. So okay, we're going into shield wall. They are now going to get an increase to their armor, but there are going to be more men in the center of the formation that are getting hit. So let's see if that offsets the damage they are taking somewhat. It should be more effective against base damage, but it's always a question whether more missiles hitting is going to cause more casualties, or more base damage being blocked being able to reduce casualties from the missiles that do hit. So we'll see here. Noble horse archers should run out of ammunition fairly soon. And yep, it's kind of the same result as with the shield screen. It reduces their susceptibility to missiles somewhat, but it's more effective to spread them out. However, if you are up against cavalry, it's going to be a better option to put them in shield wall, because putting them 2 men deep is going to make them very vulnerable to cavalry charges, while the shield wall is going to make them less susceptible to cavalry charges. So there you go, the shield wall, very useful for melee engagements, and units like these tribal warriors can become extremely tanky if you put them in shield wall, and their armor goes up to 102 and their melee defense increases by quite a bit as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again on the battlefield.